So this is what just happened to me on pop-up submissions.
But I've heard you don't have an agent.
No, I don't.
You don't
I've never
have
had an
agent.
agent. I've never ever had an agent.
And
no,
here you are,
never.
a #1 best-selling author.
I know.
It's shameful. If I knew this, you'd never been invited on the show. You're destroying the basis of my entire profession.
That's right, a #1 best-selling author, Emma Robinson, freely confesses that she doesn't use a literary agent, she doesn't need a literary agent, she deals directly with her publisher, and her publisher looks after her. So just how worried do you think we literary agents should be? And in any case, as a startup writer, how can you get a literary agent in any case? Well, I'm going to answer both those questions in a moment, but first of all, please subscribe to Litopia's YouTube channel. It's good for you. We answer questions like this, plus you can watch pop-up submissions too. Let me explain how the traditional publishing process used to work up until just a few years ago. It's very simple. You had a publisher, you had an author, and in between you had a literary agent. Literary agents were the gatekeepers to the publishing business. As an author, you could not get published unless you went in via a literary agent. That's how the publishing business used to work for 100 years or so, until now. Today we see people like Emma Robinson doing her own deals, and of course the whole growth of self-publishing threatens not just literary agents but also traditional publishing too. So let's look at what agents actually do before you decide whether you want to chase one or not. Actually, having said that, let's look at a few things that agents can't do for you, because I find that aspiring authors often have unrealistic expectations of what the agent really is going to do for you. First thing, the agent will not be your therapist. Although hopefully the relationship will be long and very friendly and mutually profitable, it is fundamentally all about making money for each other. It's not about having a shoulder to cry on. It's not about analysing your very complicated writer's life. Agents don't get paid enough to do that. Don't expect much in the way of ego stroking either. The relationship has to be honest and very straightforward. If your work is supremely commercial, your agent will tell you. If your work is not, if it's falling down in some way, your agent has to be able to tell you that too. I've got a saying that a good agent has to be your best friend and worst critic. Best friend, because the agent's got to look after your business interests in the big, wide publishing world and other areas too, like film and television. Worst critic, because they mustn't let you go out with material that's subpar or that's merely good, especially if you're a breakthrough writer trying to get your first book deal. It's got to be better than good. It's got to be actually brilliant to get every publisher's attention and to get the sort of money that you want as a first-time author. Don't expect an agent to teach you how to write. What am I saying here? Lots of agencies and lots of publishers have writing schools. Well, there's some confusion here. Let's try and sort it out. A good literary agent will give you feedback on your work in progress. They'll be able to point out what's working and what's not. That is not teaching you how to write. Writers have always learnt their craft in two simple ways. First of all, simply by doing it and learning as you go along. And secondly, by interacting with other writers and critiquing their work, and also having your work critiqued by other writers. These are the two ways that writers have, from time immemorial, learnt their craft. Shakespeare did not learn writing from some literary agent's writing school. And that's why Litopia Writers Colony, which is the oldest colony for writers on the internet, is structured as it is. It's a place for writers to interact very closely with other writers. It's not a place for aspiring writers to come to on bended knee as supplicants to literary agents or publishers saying, please, will you teach me how to do it? They can't teach you how to write. And finally, aspiring writers often think that agents can, pull strings, exercise a little bit of juju, influence publishers to acquire manuscripts that otherwise they wouldn't buy. Don't expect an agent to be able to sell a manuscript to a publisher that the publisher does not want to buy. So let's look at the real function of a literary agent, what they actually do, and why you may want one or may not. First and foremost, they are there to get you publishing deals. Now, please note that just having an agent by itself does not guarantee you that you're going to get a publishing deal by any means. Agents have to cope with rejection just as much as you do too. It is a step along the way, but it doesn't guarantee you writing success. Another very valuable role the agent plays is to give you commercial feedback at a very early stage in the development of your project or manuscript. You should be able to pick the phone up or Zoom or whatever you do and say to the agent, I've got this idea. What do you think about it? And at that stage, the agent should be able to tell you with a fair degree of accuracy whether they think there's a market for it, whether they think they can do a deal for it or not. This can literally save you months, maybe even years of effort. Interestingly, it's also what we do on pop-up submissions when we ask to see the first 700 words of a writer's work. We can give them very early feedback and commercial guidance. And then there's the question of selling rights in the books that you write. Things like foreign language rights, film and television rights, merchandising rights, theme park rights, all kinds of rights. An agent can help you to do this. Let's look at foreign language rights. Now, I'm a little heretical in this respect because I actually think that most of the time, most authors would probably be better served by having their publisher sell foreign language rights rather than the agent. Why do I say this? Well, most publishing rights directors I've met work extremely hard and are very, very well connected all over the world with other publishers. Publishers do lots and lots of horse trading. That's why we have, the Frankfurt Book Fair, the London Book Fair, the New York Book Fair. It's basically a place where publishers get together and sell lots and lots and lots of rights to each other. That's one of the key functions of publishing. And a lot of the time, I think the publishers probably do that at least as well as agents, maybe even better. But there is one area that I think agents are much better than publishers at, and that is a very important area for writers, and it's selling film and television rights in your book. Selling film and television rights is a very, very different process to selling publishing rights. It's a specialist area. Sometimes it requires many months or even a year or more of negotiating. You're not going to find many publishers prepared to do that, but your agent probably will be. So those are some of the key functions of a literary agent. How much is it going to cost you as an author to use an agent? It's going to cost something between 15 and 20% of the money that they make for you. They don't charge you anything directly. Once the money starts to flow into you, it goes via the agent. They take their commission off and they remit you the balance. And of course, a good agent will deserve every single cent of commission that they earn for you. Now, you should note, if all you're doing is writing one book with one publishing contract and probably never going to write anything else, then there is another option. And that is to use a specialist media lawyer, somebody who is conversant with the world of publishing and with the contractual terms that a publishing contract contains. Using a media lawyer is a legitimate alternative for a one-off deal to an agent. And the reason is the lawyer will probably charge you something up front, but then that'll be an end of it. The agent, by contrast, takes a commission each time you have a royalty payment, which could, of course, go on for years and years and years. So that's just something to think about. Now, if you're thinking about self-publishing, do you need a literary agent? Well, obviously you don't in the traditional context, because you're not going to be doing a deal with a traditional publisher. But there are nevertheless some things that a literary agent might be able to do for you. Notably, the first one, of course, would be foreign language rights and definitely film and television rights, if there's potential for that in the work that you're doing. And I think in the years ahead, we're probably going to see agents branching out into offering ad hoc services like that for self-published authors. Now, as a bonus, I did promise to tell you a guaranteed surefire way to get a literary agent, so here it is. And it's very simple. Remember, I started out by saying the relationship between the agent and the client is essentially a business relationship. It's one of mutual advantage. You make money for each other, and that's how you do it. You knock on the door of whichever agent you fancy, and you say to them, I've got an offer from a publisher. I'd like to talk to you about it. So I can hear your reaction. You're saying, but Peter, if I had an offer from a publisher, why would I need an agent? That's what I want an agent for, to go and get me an offer. Okay, I understand that. But hear me out. I know that getting an offer from a publisher of any sort, any size, is challenging, and most authors don't want to do that. However, if a publisher is not interested in your work, it doesn't matter if you've got an agent or not. You've got to produce work that publishers want to buy. From the agent's point of view, this is like gold dust. Having a potential client approach them saying, I've got this offer, can we talk about it? Having an offer on the table from a publisher eliminates their risk. It's like money in the bank. Now you may be thinking, yeah, this all sounds fine, but how am I going to get that spark of interest from a publisher in the first place? Well, it all depends on a range of other factors, such as, for example, the genre that you're writing in. There are publishers out there that just specialize in certain, quite often big mass market genres, and they have a constant appetite for new material from new writers. It depends on how receptive publishers may be to direct approaches from authors. These days, more and more publishers actually are open to that. Maybe at only certain times of year, you might follow them on Twitter or something else like that. They're much more open now than they used to be when agents like me were the gatekeepers. And of course, it vitally depends on how good you are at presenting yourself and your work to the publishing market. And that, of course, is another reason to join Litopia, because that's what we help you with there too. I think you may find this option to be a lot easier than you initially suspect it might be. It's worked for me, and I think it can work for you too. So there we are. Keep on writing. Keep your writing self-confidence high. Keep on honing your writer's craft, and keep on subscribing to this channel. Until the next time.